Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy. Still catching up on tags that are going around at the moment. And so this is the Tarot Tribe tag that I think was started by V Love and Crystals. She's the one who prompted me, who tagged me to do it. So thank you for stepping into my cave and tweaking my ear there and saying, hey, come out and play. So let's see here. Because I'm old and cranky, I'm not wanting to shift my camera setup here so that you can see my face. So to make things a little bit interesting, I'm going to start answering while I flip through, and I'm going to do things a little out of order. So one of the questions is show us your recent oracle or tarot and recent crystal, and why were they calling you? So this is the Augenblick, Augenblick, I don't know how you pronounce it. Augenblick tarot, and it's kind of like Majestic Earth. It features places, and it did not call to me, so I'm just gonna flip through it as we go. It did not call to me. I didn't even know it existed, but I was doing a tarot trade, and it was, somebody wanted the deck that I was wanting to trade, and this was among the things that they had to offer, and I'm like, well, what the heck is that? So I looked it up online, and I thought, well, that's kind of curious. That's kind of interesting. And so it just piqued my curiosity in general, and she was willing to make the trade, and so we made the trade. So this will definitely be a deck I will have to study, just like the Majestic Earth. They will probably be projects, one of the projects for next year, where I take a month and I get to know the deck and see what I can do with it or can't do with it, that kind of thing. I haven't tried to do too much with it, so I don't know. I think it's probably not an instant reader for me. I think I did try and was like, well, all right. So I knew it would take some work and some getting to know, so that's no big deal. So once I'm through with this, I'll move on to the most recent Oracle deck. But while we're here, and so I don't forget, I'll show you. And there's multiples. I don't know if this is everything I got. Probably not. But I pretty much buy crystals once a year. There's a Gem and Mineral show in October where I live, and so that's kind of my only. There's also a shop. I was noticing that when I set this down, it started to spin. So it's a good spinner. Yeah, so it's my biggest opportunity, my best opportunity to pick up some rocks, and I try to get there every year. So this is citrine, my first piece in a nice big chunk of untreated, so it's not amethyst that's been superheated, it's actual citrine. So that was cool. I've been looking for those for years. I've been looking for a piece of citrine. I seem to have started looking at a time when it wasn't easy to find. And I don't even recall what this is, if it's dumotierite or something. But I got on a blue kick. So this was just in a bowl full of stones of this sort, and it appealed to me. Just a little iridescence in there. Oh, there is. Well, that's interesting. Oops. Gosh, that and the crackliness almost makes me wonder if it's like a super blue, I don't know if you can see, you see that little thing right in here? To me, that's kind of like labradorite. This is blue calcite. And I don't know, I was on a calcite kick, and I really still am. I wasn't really wanting blue, I was wanting green, and I couldn't find green calcite there. And then lastly, this little gem of azurite, which I don't think I've ever seen it available there. And I keep it in the bag so it doesn't get super dusty, because the crystals are very, very fine, and so if I were to have to wash it, you know, I don't know what would happen to the crystals, but look at all the little sparklies. So those are my preciouses. I do love my crystals. I don't do very much with them these days, but I certainly do love them. So there are those. And if I, in my rambling through the rest of these 16 questions, if I get through this, I'll show you then my the most recent oracle that I've received. So the first question really is, how did you get into tarot or oracle? So, you know, it's just kind of, it had been around. You know, there are various steps. When I was in elementary school, at an elementary school fair, there was a fortune teller, you know, that was a tarot card reader and read my cards. So my mom gets blamed for that one. My sister went through a phase where she was doing a lot of spiritual development type work and was introduced to the little itty bitty, and here they are. I didn't think they were too far. Angel cards, and she's like, "Oh, you've got to get angel cards." So I got some angel cards, and then in my 20s, I was living in an apartment. This was in California, and one of my roommates there had a Mother Peace deck, which wasn't very attractive to me, but you know, just the practice of reading the cards, you know, was curious and interesting. And somewhere in here there's your first deck, and so I'll just show you that. So I went out and I got a version, not this version, of the Celtic Tarot, and I'm just going to show you the cards on the back so you realize which one it is, because I went looking for them. So I picked this up because it's so common for people to ask this question. What was, you know, in tags or whatever, what was your first tarot deck? What was your first tarot deck? And so I picked that one up used because I let it go. I had it for I don't know how many years, 6 years, 10 years, I don't know how long I had it. And then it just felt like it was getting stale. It was giving me, you know, the same cards all of the time. And it's also a pip deck. And so I never got past having to use the guidebook. And to me that was frustrating. And so I just felt like, well, I'm not very good at this anyway. It's a beautiful, beautiful deck. The overlay of Celtic mythology on top of the tarot was problematic for me, and didn't, you know, it made trying to learn it even more difficult. And I realized that more later. I kind of realized how untraditional it was. So yeah, that was my first tarot deck. And that was kind of my introduction to tarot, was that. And then also, like, at the library, this was in Santa Cruz, California, and I was young and poor, but I would go to their library book sales, and they had a book on Marseille style tarot, and so that was part of my learning experience, was partly copying parts from that book and copying parts from the Celtic tarot into sheets of paper, which I still own today, even though there was a long stretch in which I did not read tarot. I had oracle only, and that was the medicine cards and my angel cards. Those are my original angel cards that I got many, many, many years ago. So yeah, so that's how I got into it. There was nothing. It was just sort of general drift. It was a general drift in that direction, and seeing other people do it, and it's like, all right, well, why not? Yeah, it's my foolish nature. Why not? I'll give it a try. Could be interesting. So, okay. Number 2, are you drawn to oracle or tarot more? To be honest, oracle. When I got back into reading, or wanted to expand my reading to include reading for other people instead of just myself, I wanted to just use oracle decks, and I got like 3, I got 3 oracle decks. And then I thought, you know what, all these people are coming for a tarot reading, and I think they're going to want a tarot deck for their reading. And I really didn't want to have to, because I didn't have a very good experience trying to learn the tarot the first time. I didn't want to go down that road, but I thought, all right, I'll do it, and picked up a Rider-Waite-Smith. And boy, that was just easy as pie. That was just, and I don't know if it's the intervening years and life experience, or if it's just a really easy reader. And so, yeah. So I like, and I have more, I currently have more tarot decks because there's such a variety, and it's always just so interesting to see the different takes on things. Then I do oracle decks, but I feel like, I could probably reduce them all down and just have the Rider-Waite-Smith if I went to the clinch. And I don't feel like they, I don't know, have quite the emotional impact as some of the oracles. I don't feel quite the affection for a tarot deck that I feel for some oracle decks, like the Fairies Oracle and things. So there's the best I can do explaining that. If you could create your own deck, what would it be, oracle or tarot? I don't know. I don't think it's a matter of oracle or tarot. I'd like to see a good horse deck. There's so many decks out there right now that I don't feel a strong need to create a deck. For one thing, I've got, dozens already. And yeah, so I've got a good 10 years worth of just kind of getting to know the decks I've purchased in the last few years, or have been given, and stuff like that. So I'm just not feeling that urge a lot. But one thing I feel is missing is a good horse deck. And I know that there is a horse deck out there, but it just doesn't appeal to me. And it just amazes me that the artists, they can draw dogs and they can draw people, pretty elaborate people. and yet they can't draw horses. It drives me crazy to see these horses with these really undefined noses and really roughly drawn. It's just like, come on. That's one way that I'm quite peevish, even though I'm not somebody who only reads with pretty decks. I feel when I see that, I do feel a little peevish. So yeah, but will I actually motivate myself and try to fill that hole in the tarot sphere? Certainly not as long as I'm working full time. It's just not a priority. All right, and number 4 is show us your first deck, and I showed you the box of the first deck, and I couldn't find the cards. I looked all over, and it's like, what bag or box have I put them in? And now I don't know where they are. So I just couldn't find them. Okay, so number 5 is show us your recent deck, Oracle. Okay, so this is this deck, and there's the crystals, and I'll show you the Oracle deck when I get through this. 6, if you could share a tip with someone learning tarot for the first time, what would it be? Use the Rider-Waite-Smith. Just use the Rider-Waite-Smith and look at the images. You know what's happening in the cards. I mean, I feel like you do need the book for some book learning for the majors and the courts. But the pip, the pip cards that aren't pip cards, the minor arcana that are scenic, have scenic illustrations. To me, those, they kind of speak for themselves in large measure. And don't restrict yourself to book meanings, because you'd have to read a lot of books to come up, to figure out everybody's meanings, and it changes and shifts depending on the cards that are around them. All right, so number 7, first tarot tuber you followed. So here I'm going to have to kind of parse the term tarot tuber. So things like this tag and sharing decks and deck reviews, this social aspect to tarot on YouTube is, I think, what people mean by tarot tube. However, there is a very large group of people who are, I don't even know if you want to call them professional. I mean, they are doing readings usually for signs of the zodiac, but not always. There are people these days who do celebrities, or they're doing the political scenes. So there are people who are offering the service of doing a tarot reader for some broad audience out there in the world. So it's that group, that group that is doing pretty much zodiac sign is how I started, I think, zodiac sign tarot readings, that I first connected with the tarot scene on YouTube was through those videos. And that kind of got me thinking along the lines of, hey, I would like to get back. I need to be using my intuition more in general, and would just really enjoy this. So heading back down that road with more than what I had. I've always had my, since I got them, and I don't remember when, I've always had my my medicine cards. I had another tarot as well that somebody had given me, and again, it's just like, it just doesn't work for me. More because what it purported to be didn't fit my idea of, it was a wolf-based deck, and the art didn't particularly appeal to me, and they were putting wolves in situations that were more like coyote territory and stuff, and I'm like, this just doesn't fit my biological understanding of ecosystems here. so so that got in my way, and I eventually just let it go because I was only using my medicine cards anyway. So first tarot tuber that I followed, that I don't think I could even answer. If by tarot tuber it's meant, people who share their decks and their general enthusiasm, it could have been Kellyanne Maddox. It could have been, but I don't know that I did follow her, or if I just watched a bunch of her videos. But I probably did. And but the first tarot related channel that I subscribed to was Alexandra. How does she do it? Hang on just a second. I'll try to remember to put her down in the information box. And she does tarot readings, astrology based, well, I should say this, astrological sign based love readings using tarot decks. And it's her videos, and she's changed her style a little bit. But it was, there she is, Alexandra Vivite, Vivite Somnia. And I don't remember, it's supposed to be Latin, and I don't remember exactly what it's supposed to mean. But yeah, it was watching her stuff, and I still enjoy watching her. Even though I'm not interested in anything to do with relationships or love. I like her reading style. I enjoy watching how she makes meaning out of the cards. So yeah. Let's see. What's the next question? Number 8, what was life before tarot or the holistic path for you? Where did you come from? Well, I don't consider myself a witch. I don't, I'm into tarot cards and tarot card reading. And I guess I come from a place where that doesn't have to be assigned or conjoined with any sort of spiritual path. It's just, it's just a deck full of life lessons and feedback and stuff like that. So I grew up in a home where religion was not at all foisted on us. We weren't not required to go to church, so I didn't have all of that stuff. I didn't have a lot of baggage in that regard. Again, there was a fortune teller tarot card reader at an elementary school fair. That wouldn't happen where I'm at now. And that was in Michigan. And yeah, it's so I don't have a particularly interesting story in that regard. It's just like there were no barriers to it, and I don't know that life was dramatically different. I would say that I have started to explore, things that I wouldn't have otherwise explored, like the whole idea of past lives or communicating with ancestors or that sort of thing, that I wouldn't have done without connecting to the wider community that also uses tarot cards. I think that I've learned as I've used tarot as a single person, as my life has gotten more complicated and some of the decisions have more import than when I was younger, that it has been very useful for me to lean on the tarot, my little centennial weight in a tin, to help me prioritize what needs to be done next, or what shouldn't ever be done. So when I have ideas, to help me sort out which ones really are not worth pursuing. So I would say that was, that's a very helpful thing, that it's that it's kind of like a, if you had a steady partner in your life, or somebody living with you, even if it wasn't a partner, roommates or whatever, where you could chat about things. And I don't live in that situation right now. And so, it's great to have a deck to say, so what about this? And just get some feedback after a little shuffling. Number 9, favorite go-to tarot spread. I do, speaking about getting advice from the cards, I do a 3-card, should I do X? And then I pull 3 cards. The first card is the yes or no card, kind of leaning in one direction. Some cards are not real strong one way or the other. The second card is why. In other words, why the yes or why the no? What factor makes it lean in that direction? And then the last card is the outcome. So if I ignore the advice and I go down this path, or take the advice and go down this path, what is the likely outcome? And sometimes, to elaborate on that outcome, I will pull additional cards. I also do a Chinese system of elements spread, and that's more elaborate than I would go into here, but it's earth, air, fire, water, and metal, and it's based on some feng shui elemental ideas. And the other is a 9 card, just 3 rows of 3, or three columns, 3 rows, so a total of 9 cards for a general overview of something. And there's no there's no particular positions assigned to those 9. Usually the far lower right is kind of the outcome, or where things are headed, and that's really from Alexandra, is watching her do those 9 card spreads, that I really got into them. I wouldn't say that I read them quite like her, but I really enjoy the interaction that's possible between the cards in a spread like that. So 10, most anticipated deck of 2020. Yeah, I don't have one, really. I'm not, again, I have so many decks at this point that a bit late to be doing this after having my cards on the table. It just feels there's gritty, which I think was probably from the stones, probably from taking the azurite out. So what was I saying? Yeah, there were some that I was interested in. I think I even took one off my wish list recently. But yeah, I'm just not feeling super hot for any particular deck. I'm interested, but it's not a 2020 deck, in, is it the golden, the golden Art Nouveau, something like that. But again, you know, do I need another Rider-Waite-Smith clone? Probably not. Will it keep me from getting it? Probably not. But there's no, I don't feel any pressing need. So this is the Wisdom Keepers Oracle. Nothing new at all, except to me. And this was actually a gift to me from my friend Lark. So thank you, Lark. It's still here. And it will be here until I'm able to spend some more time on it. So this goes back up to question 5. Show us your recent deck, Oracle or Tarot. So I showed you the Tarot. This is the Oracle. This was on my wish list, and I was just, and she happened to be wanting to get rid of it, and and so she was kind enough to give it to me. And yeah, why did this deck call me? I don't know. Kind of like with the Weavers, I just kind of wanted to look into their eyes and see what was in there. I was also considering, this deck has kind of a more spiritual leaning than I personally do. And I run into that occasionally with interesting or beautiful decks. Tarot of Transformation is another one of them. And I was thinking that my sister, I might at some point get it for my sister, but I wanted to get to know it a little bit more to see whether it really seemed right for her. And I am still up in the air about that. Yes, Lark, if you're watching, Lady Judi Dench, isn't that her name? Or what is it? It isn't Lady. What is it? Dame Judi Dench. Anyway. Sorry for all the hacking and throat clearing. I had a little ice cream earlier today, and I think that is what's occupying my throat here. Okay, so most anticipated decks of 2020. We did that, and I really don't have one. What's on your tarot wish list? Again, I'm not very much in a state of excitement or wanting. There is, I'm almost to the point of having only books. I think I've got 1 or 2, but you know, they're shaky. I don't know if they'll even stay on my wish list. I continue to keep my eye out for some things that are out of print, but you know, that's the long view. That's just decks that if they come my way, they come my way. I don't feel any stress about it. I'm just being watchful. So what's next? Tag the next tarot tuber via YouTube or Instagram. I may do that. I may not do that. I don't know. Can you tell it's getting to be that time of the night where I'm not kind of all together here. It's only, well, it's not even 9 anyway. Let's see. keep losing track of where I'm at in the questions. Number 13. What were your impressions, fears about tarot? I don't think I had any to start with. You know, eventually, when I had such a difficult time with the Celtic Tarot, in terms of not being able to do readings without using the book. So I didn't have that much in the way of impressions or attitudes or anything toward it until I tried it with what I would say was the wrong deck for a beginner. And then I ended up with thinking that it was difficult, when really I had the wrong deck, essentially, for a beginner. Well, I know that there are people who can read immediately. They must be more number oriented or something from a pip style deck. But, 14. Would you like to start reading tarot? So this is for somebody who supposedly comes across these tarot tags and actually has never picked up a deck. 15. Have you ever gotten a reading from another reader? Certainly, yes. What were your feelings towards, I don't know if that's towards the reading. Yeah, I mean, I've gotten one. Gosh, I've had friends, I've had people that I've met through websites. I've gotten them at Renaissance festivals. There's that reading I had when I was a kid. I went to a reading when I lived in Billings, Montana. So, you know, I don't know. What were your feelings towards? So, there were two of them. Well, I will say this. So, sometimes they would point out problems, the readers, and these are not recent people, I think, but that you would see problems, but there was no like pulling a card for advice or solution. So it was useful to see that a problem was perhaps in the works, or that they were seeing that something was not right about a situation. And so there would be, I don't know, sometimes I would take it on board and sometimes not. It's like in one instance I felt like the person was judging by appearances, not mine, but another person's. And other times it was like telling me when I, you know, was set on a path, that it was saying, well, you know, this isn't going to be your path really. And it's like, there's really kind of no point in telling somebody that unless you also say that you're going to need a different path. Because it just kind of sets up, well, you know, great, so I feel like I'm wasting my time. But I didn't come away, even when I felt like I didn't really completely grasp. I didn't have a problem with the readers particularly, and it isn't until now that I can put my finger on part of what the problem was. What ended up being a little frustrating about some of them is that they did not go the extra step and give advice for a more positive direction, or a solution. And they weren't bad readings. If I recall correct, I mean, I don't think they were tower type readings or anything like that, but they were seeing problems. and not providing solutions. So, and it depends on the reading too. You know, it was the one out in Montana. I remember she's the one who told me about my my tarot birth card, which is the Chariot, and that was super useful and made a lot of sense. But the reading overall didn't make a lot of sense for where I was at. And of course, that can be problematic for anybody who reads, because I once had a gal that I read for, and it's, you know, years later she comes back to me on YouTube with a message saying, you know, what you said about the person who would come into my life, she said, it's just happened. It's just happened just now, just like you said. Just exactly like you said. And it's like, wow, I would have I would have written that reading off eons ago, you know, a couple years ago. You know, to me, it's like, if it hasn't happened in 6 months, then, you know, then energies have shifted or something, you know. But it was very sweet of her to find me and make a point of letting me know. And then 16, what kind of vibes do you like to feel when getting a reading? I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I'm looking for vibes or I need vibes. Like, I don't need candles. So, you know, and I don't need it to be half lit, you know, or, you know, so I don't need atmosphere particularly, which is a good thing, because sometimes people aren't able to supply that. And I think that's resulted, or the result of that is that I often end up going to readers who don't really do that. And that works for me. So it's like law of attraction thing going on. So I want information. So I want to feel that the reader is genuine and skilled, and I've always felt that. I've never suspected a reader of not being that way. And to give me information, preferably usable information. And that's why when it tends to be kind of a negative message, like there's something wrong here, you know, you're on the wrong path, you know. So if anything, maybe some of them weren't as specific as they could have been, and they didn't give me information that was kind of a positive direction. But I don't know. I still felt like I got what I paid for, which was a different perspective and additional information to chew on regarding my situation. And I definitely go into a tarot reading with, you know, take what resonates and leave the rest, and no resentment or fault of the reader. They're still providing what I asked for, what I paid for, which is a different perspective from a completely different avenue than my own mind or the life that I live on a daily basis. All right, so I think I have rambled plenty, and so there you go. That's what you get for tagging me on something like this. 16 questions. I just go on and on, talking slowly. So yeah, I'll have to think about who I might tag, and if I don't forget about that within the next 5 minutes, I will do the tag. I think I think I'm coming in late. Well, maybe not too late. I think I'm looking at these video here, and it was only February 18th. But, you know, I was thinking it could be that most everyone has already done this tag. But I'll think about it and see if I can get somebody to jump in and do the tag. Alright, so thank you so much for including me on this. It was very sweet of you to step up to my channel and say, hey lady, do this tag with us. And it was fun to get these decks out again and take a look at them, since they are new to me. And to think once again about my journey with tarot and oracle reading. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.